Hey, what's going on, guys? Brandon here with Texas Revving, making a video I've been really anticipating for a while, so much so that I ended up making it in parts accidentally. Whenever I make a video on the R or the Ranger, I accidentally compare the two, but I really wanted to save it for its own video. The two trucks behind me are two trucks that I personally own and I am so attracted to for very different reasons. They are very different trucks from each other in price range, in specs, and more than anything in the way they drive, and I really want to highlight that in this video. But the trucks I'm talking about are my 2024 Ford F-150 Raptor R and the 2025 Ranger Raptor. And I guess without spoiling anything too much, the thesis of this is maybe the Ranger Raptor is actually a truck that many are not looking into, but probably should be. But I really want to dive into what we could expect from these trucks, both in how they drive, but then some of them just, hard specs and stuff to go over. So to keep this whole show on its tracks, let's go ahead and pull out the old notes here. All right, let's lead with price because that is probably the biggest talking portion, I would say, between this. Starting with the R, they start at $113,620. I think that's with destination. They start at the one option out here. Really didn't spare too many expenses. I think it's $115,710, equipped the way you see it back here. Whereas the Ranger Raptor starts at $57,415, again with destination. And the one option out here did everything I wanted to. It's at $60,155. So priced the way they are, option out the way they are, there's a $55,555 difference between the two. So you could almost say you could buy two of these for the price of that nearly, especially when you consider that if you're going to find one for MSRP, it's probably going to be a little easier to find a Ranger Raptor for MSRP. The market on the Rs have always just been Armageddon. So it's actually kind of safe to say it's half the price. The Ranger Raptor is powered by a 3-liter twin-turbo V6. The R is powered by a 5.2-liter supercharged V8 shared with the GT500 and also the GTD now. As far as 0 to 60s, this is just stuff if you looked online, this is probably best conditions and whatever testing environment, but the Raptor R could do it in 3.6 seconds and the Ranger Raptor could do it in 5.3 seconds. Real world, want to, adjust that a little bit, but on average, you could expect about a 1.5 second difference, 0 to 60 between the two trucks. The Raptor R is fitted with 37-inch BF Goodrich KO2s, and the Ranger Raptor is fitted with 33-inch brand new KO3s from BF Goodrich. Neither of these are lightweight, but the R is 5,950 pounds, and the Ranger Raptor is 5,325 pounds, or 625 pounds off the full size, or in this case, the Raptor R. Now let's get into dimensions, which might be the deciding factor why you go over one over the other here. But starting with the Raptor R, 232.6 inches in length, 96 inches wide, and because it's over 80 inches, it's mandated that it has amber lights. That's why these Raptors do. And then it's 80.6 inches tall. Now going over with the Ranger Raptor, 211 inches in length, 79 inches in width, so just missed that legal limit by 1 inch. That's why there's no amber lights on a Ranger Raptor. Maybe just come on, widen the fenders half an inch each side just to get those amber lights, get it 80 inches. But anyway, 79 inches in width, 75 inches tall. So definitely a more compact truck, certainly. Towing capacity on the R is 8,700 pounds. On the Ranger Raptor, it's 5,510 pounds. The gas tank on the R is 36 gallons versus 20.3 gallons on the Ranger. And talking about fuel economy, this one's rated for 10 to 15. I did a little test to the gym and back home, and I got 12.9, trying to drive as careful as I could. And the Ranger Raptor is rated at 16.18. And in my same exact test, same conditions, 17.4. So although the Ranger Raptor gets better gas mileage, which I don't know how much of a reason that might be for why you buy one of these, it actually goes less range because of that smaller gas tank. So in perfect conditions, let's say with the R, for example, 12.9 miles to the gallon with that size tank, I could theoretically get a little over 460 miles per fill-up. Versus that same theory here might get me just a tick over 350 miles. So, if money's no object and you want to stop less, who cares? Just have the bigger tank. All right, there's probably more specs to get into, but tell you what, let's just go ahead and kind of simplify this by going over pros. Not necessarily pros and cons, but there are pros the Ranger has over the F-150 Raptor and vice versa. So let's go ahead and start off with all the pros that I thought of that the F-150 Raptor, in this case the R, has over a Ranger Raptor. Starting off with some boring amenity stuff, but this right here. Both trucks have 3-position memory seats, but the R, or the F-150 in that case, has memory mirrors and a steering column, because the steering column is electric, and the mirrors on the Ranger Raptor are electric too, but why they don't get saved in the memory buttons, kind of annoying. Both of them have 360 cam, which is cool, but this has one more critical angle, and it's got the bed cam. I thought the Ranger Raptor would have it, to be totally honest, but it does not, and the proof is right there. Versus the Ranger Raptor has no bed cam, and I didn't realize how much I missed it. Both the trucks have heated seats, but the Ranger Raptor does not have AC seats like the F-150 does. In the back of the R, there's heated seats, no cooled, but got heated, there's something. As far as climate control, there's no temperature control, but you can shut your vents, open them angle them, all that stuff. You have your vents right there. Sitting in the back of the Ranger, I gotta say, it's probably the best for its class in the mid-size segment. Smaller than the F-150 for sure, but honestly, given the task, no complaints. It's definitely tighter, and you know that. As far as climate control, you got none. In my first ever video I made with this, I was wrong. I said that there's no vents back here at all. There actually is, and it's under the seat here. And as long as people in the front of the truck want air, you'll get air. There's no way to turn that off or on your own. No vents here, which the European and Australian ones have, but the American one just has some extra storage here. Something that I find as a pro for the F-150 Raptors is that they have a unique plaque. Once you go Raptor, it's obvious from a mile away because of this, black plastic that says Ford, nice and big, Raptor here. It's just very unique to the Raptor. Another pro is it's assisted on the way down and back up. I'll show you the back up in just a second. The other pro is that it's got a larger bed as well. If I remind myself here, 67.1 inches in length, and I have the worst handwriting ever. Pretty sure that says 50.6 inches wide. As far as getting this back up, you can either press something on the key to shoot it back up if you're walking away from the truck, or if you're getting something, out of the truck with your hands, you just knee it up real quickly, drop it, and it closes itself. That's something I thought was a totally soft thing that no one needs for a truck, and now that I have it, I guess I'm soft. I kind of like it. On the Ranger Raptor, it's not unique. The only thing unique to it being a Raptor is one plaque. And I've always thought design-wise, the Ford oval is just a little too big for its own good. It's a ginormous oval for a little truck, or relatively little anyway, but it says Ranger here like all the other Rangers. That's the only unique thing, and if they did this in that same polymer, or plastic or whatever, and just said Ford nice and big and got rid of this, would have helped distinguish it being a Ranger Raptor versus all the other Rangers. I forgot that is assisted on the way down. I thought that was going to slam down. That's nice. Not on the way up, but who cares because it's pretty lightweight. So there's that. As far as the dimensions of this bed though, 59.6 inches in length and 48.2 inches wide. Big pro that the F-150 is going to have for sure is interior space. Fold the seats up. There's one of these benches and then one individual. This little box could pop up if you want like a more compartment type of thing. Otherwise I have it folded down. But this is a big box here. Look at how much just crap I have in general. If I have freaking whatever, rifle cases, whatever, just longer objects, I could put that here, out of sight, out of mind, and then just fold the seat over that if it's a thin object. And I've just got so much interior space. I could just go on and on with the center console even, all that kind of stuff. But that's the main thing versus just to visualize it here. This here is all one bench, and it wants to be pulled out. There we go. And you can just see that this is non-negotiable. This is just always going to be here. You have a small compartment here, little kit here for changing out a tire, and then some more storage here. I got a dog cover there for now, but you could see if I wanted to put things under the seat, not only does this interrupt it, this interrupts it. Just a little bit less place to just put things under seats. Sorry for the voiceover, but something I forgot to mention out in the field is a big pro both trucks have is they have a full-size spare tire. So full-size KO3 for the Ranger Raptor, a full-size KO2 for the F-150 Raptor. But a pro that the F-150 has as far as expenses is it has a regular wheel. So whatever wheel your truck's optioned in, you have 5 of those wheels, one of them being under the bed. And on the Ranger Raptor, you have a more temporary, ugly steel wheel. Just serves its purpose, but thought I'd mention that. 2024s and up, the F-150 Raptors have a heads-up display, and it changes with the different modes you're in. I think it's pretty cool. Some people, even the ones that have this truck, don't like it and they can turn it off. Well, at least you have that option. And the Ranger Raptor has no heads-up display. I don't know what year they started doing this, but at some point they decided they don't want to put auto start-stop in the F-150 Raptors. It used to be here on the older ones. Thankfully, this one doesn't have it. And I think that's a pro to the F-150. To be honest, you can't get away with that in the Ranger Raptor. I got an auto start-stop eliminator on Amazon, or it's just, remembering your R button. So you can get around it, but I like that. You don't even mess with that here. Other than that, you got a twin panel sunroof here. And when you do that, it's just a really nice greenhouse effect. I don't really do that when it's really sunny out just because I don't like the sun. But at night, whatever, it's cool. It really opens it up in here. The Ranger Raptor does not have it, and to be honest, I don't necessarily miss it. In fact, this isn't standard. This is an option in the F-150s. I guess I would like it to be an option in the Ranger just to see if I like it. I know the Tacomas and stuff of that, same class of trucks have it, so it'll be interesting. But if you really like sunroofs, you only got one option. The next pro on the F-150 Raptor R is kind of vague, and it goes for all the F-150 Raptors, but just overall, anywhere you touch and feel and click, is just a better feeling, better materials. This right here, for example, the carbon fiber, it's not standard. It's an option on the base F-150 Raptor. I think it becomes standard once you go 37. It's definitely standard once you go to the Raptor R. But just carbon fiber, more Alcantara, more suede, the little Easter egg with the V8 written on the side of the console and everything. It's just a really, really nice environment. The Bang & Olufsen sound system, the covers are metal. Just getting my sunglasses, it just seems like a much, much nicer feel. The way it's like just spongy and I don't know, they got a strip of metal here and everything. It just feels more luxurious. I don't know if that's going to come off on camera, but this piece of plastic just seems thinner. It's not as like a compressy thing. There's no metal, whatever. Just little touchy-feely things. Even the window switches, I don't know, more plasticky feeling. A lot of the plastic they got creative with, you know, there's no carbon fiber here, but this little hex piece on the plastic, that actually feels pretty nice. That's not suede, but whatever this is was kind of, I don't know, it was tricky, but it was nice. I don't mind that, and they put it around here. So I don't want you to think the whole thing just feels like a plastic bin. It doesn't, but you're just aware of like heavier, more luxurious materials in the F-150. For example, again, you can see the plastic covering for the Bang & Olufsen sound system as well. Segueing off that and just kind of keeping it vague, just overall, when you spend the money, you're aware that it's not just because you're getting a bigger truck, but they definitely spent some time in kind of fine-tuning everything to be a very luxurious feel, more than I would have ever expected out of an F-150 in general. It's certainly an F-150 Raptor. It's almost too nice for me. It's just got so much suppleness, you almost feel bad bringing muddy shoes in it, but get over it. It's a Raptor, it's a truck. But yeah, it's just got this suppleness to it that the Ranger just doesn't have. I think Ford didn't give it to the Ranger because they have it as like the smaller brother to the F-150. And I wish they just kind of let this be the best mid-size truck they could let it be, rather than trying to, you know, pigeonhole it to the F-150, as I've said before. That being said, though, this seemed like it was a bash fest to the Ranger Raptor. But no, the Ranger Raptor certainly has a lot of advantages that I picked up on. So let's go ahead and start talking about the pros the Ranger Raptor has. Some of the pros that the Ranger has is just going to be obvious and vague. Once again, we'll kind of dive into the specifics a little bit, but it's just more maneuverable in general. Whether that's on-road, off-road, spirited, boring, leisure, doesn't matter. It's just way more maneuverable. And going with that is just driving, let's say, for example, on-road, parking garages. I'm so used to with sports cars like the Shelbys or whatever, the threat's down low with speed bumps, and then with that thing, the threat is up top with parking garages to make sure I can even fit in the parking garages. That might even be true for your home garage. Both of these can fit in my garage, but man, front and back, that thing is snug. Versus when I park this in my garage, not only is it, you know, narrow enough, just barely, to get it into a single, you know, garage door, but lengthwise, I've got plenty to where I can walk in front of the truck. Versus that, when I park that in my garage, which I do, I cannot walk around it unless the garage door is open. So, you know, just a little bit of practicality for you. Now with that too is the turning radius. I'm not prepared enough to go into the specs of what the turning radius is. All I know is I look like Austin Powers in that one scene in the R sometimes, and this thing just whips it around real easy. I'm so used to the full-size F-150 Raptors to where this surprises me just how golf cart-like it is in doing a U-turn or any kind of thing. About turning radius, it is much tighter for sure. And I mentioned it, but yes, it does get better gas mileage, whether that's important to you or not. In my little test, what was it, 4.5 miles to the gallon better? So decide if that's worth anything to you. I didn't write this down, but it just came to my head. With that as well is with the R, you got to put some high octane stuff. Around Texas, we got 93 octane. That's what I fill up with the R. And this right here on the gas cap just says 87 plus. Little pro I have for the Ranger is the parking brake placement. It's much handier in the Ranger. You have it right here, so just, you know, down for releasing it and press up to set the parking brake. Versus the F-150s, I think they've always just kind of had it here because when it was a mechanical parking brake, you just kind of pulled something here and it just, you know, released it. And I guess whenever they went to the electronic parking brake, they figured, let's just keep that positioning there, even though it's electronic. And the last pros I'll really touch on with the Ranger Raptor are a little bit more vague, so that obviously seems like the F-150 scores more points because we went through a whole bulletin list of pros the F-150 Raptor has. But with this, it's a little bit harder to pin down just what this pro is, but I've said it before, and that is just how much less intimidating it is in the sense that when you're really kind of thrashing it off-road or even on-road, it's just more maneuverable, more tossable, it's less intimidating, and overall it makes you feel like you're getting more out of this truck, if that makes any sense. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that or try to demonstrate that when we go off-roading and just rip around the property. But something about this just feels like kind of fun that you didn't expect, like ripping around a side-by-side on a ranch. Versus this, I guess the impressive thing about an F-150 is you could drive it on the road and never does it really occur to you, oh, this is a really capable off-road vehicle, until you go do off-road things. Versus this just seems like it's got that character kind of all the time, and it honestly just encourages bad behavior more often out of me than that thing does, whatever that has to say. On the 2024 year model 37 pack and Rs and up, they started using dual live valve, which is on compression and rebound, versus this is live valve, but none of the dual live valve. It's just a different suspension setup as far as the Watts links to the rear and stuff like that. As far as ground clearance though, we got 13.1 inches on the R and 10.7 inches of ground clearance on the Ranger Raptor. Little pro the Ranger Raptor might have is a slightly shorter wheelbase, so you have to wait not as long and cover not as much dirt to wait for the back end to kick back up. Little pro there as well, but neither of these I've got to rock crawl. I mostly got it for the fast-paced fun stuff, so let's hop in each truck and do that. It's funny, just the adjustment. Last time I've been romping around here was in the Ranger Raptor, and man, they drive so differently from each other. So little bit of an adjustment. There's a trailer here, so we won't try to power slide just yet. What's funny is this thing has so much power to where as soon as you put your foot down and the truck's pointing straight, it's a 50-50 whether the truck starts veering left or right. It just does this like massive burnout on the dirt. It's pretty awesome. That's all down to the power. Between these little trees here, that's where the advantage of the Ranger will probably show. Here's a little tighter, so go a little slower here. Let's go ahead and go over some of this with a little bit of pace here. It's a pretty big jump here that doesn't show on camera. Right there. And the faster you go with Raptors, the smoother things get, funny enough. This little section here, I'm a little bit more confident in the Ranger just because the size. I usually get a little bit more throttle down. Man, to slide this thing though does not take much. Right now the conditions are pretty good. If it was really muddy, we'd be going nowhere, but this is just dry enough to where we can get the tail end out all with throttle. And that's something the R has that nothing else really does. All right, let's go into Baja mode. That way it just holds the revs a little bit higher here. It threw us into 4 high. Let's go back into 2 high. All right, there we go. Baja, 2 high, traction off. Let's see what that does. Oh yeah. Little ditch here. We'll kind of take that a little slower. Little brake check there. That's just a good old burnout. It'll do donuts all day for sure. All right, let's go down here with just a little bit of pace here. It's just got so much travel, I don't think it really wanted to pick off the ground there, and the Ranger usually catches a little air there. Just a total freaking monster, my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's just so fun. But even oversteering like that, I'm not totally wide open throttle, and if I am, it's not for a long time. There's a quick little rip in the Raptor R. Let's go ahead and jump in the Ranger Raptor and see what we think. Oh my gosh. Oh, grin factor is high on this one, man. But we get right here again with these 2 trees. I could, it's still a little tight, but not bad at all, and I just feel more confident punching it out of here because it's just a smaller truck to where if I do slip and lose traction, go over that a little bit. I will say this gets over the drama a little quicker, but that was a lot smoother in the F-150. Whereas the F-150, once you go over it, it kind of like bounces like a 2-3 maybe rebounds, and this was kind of done with it, but harsher. The F-150 with the dual live valve is like a cloud. Dang. Feels more like a rally car than like a Baja ready truck thing from the dealership. Very rally car like we did in the R. Let's go ahead and come to a stop and go into Baja mode. And again, that's probably going to want me in 4 high automatically, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to 2 high. Going to hold the revs a little higher, so maybe a little easier to get the tail end out on some of these. And that right there I'm pretty impressed with. Did some donuts in the R, only it'd be fair if we do it here too. And we're lost. There we are. Yeah, that actually catches just a little bit of air versus the R, just kind of all the suspension travel just keeps in contact with the ground. So pro or con, not too sure, but fun either way. That handled that really well, holy crap. I don't think I've ever taken that little whoop there, whatever you want to call it, that speed, and that handled it pretty good. So freaking tossable. Oh my gosh. Let's go ahead and slow it down just so I can get some thoughts aligned. But impressions going back and forth, I will say I learned nothing from going back and forth. What I was hoping out of this truck, you know, reading about them, seeing videos about them, all that good stuff, having the F-150 Raptor R, my fear, and I didn't think this would come true, is that they would maybe be too similar to where it would be redundant. But I was pretty sure that was not going to happen, and I was right. They are so different to where I get something out of each one that the other truck doesn't do. And it's a lot of it is, if you're like me, things that you already expected, like I said, in the sense that this truck is smaller. You already know that going into it. But what that does as far as a driving feel when you're driving spiritedly and when you're doing things that you hope to do in your Raptor, it becomes, I will say it, a huge advantage to the Ranger. That is where I will say, not in all cases, I'm not saying the F-150 or the F-150 Raptor R is not worth it. It certainly is if you know what you're wanting and what to expect. But I will say, the fun aspect of this is in the sense that I am personally, whatever this says about me, call me soft, I don't care. I'm less intimidated by this truck when romping it around. When I want to just fling it into a corner and come out sideways and all that stuff, why is it that it's easier to get more out of this truck than it is the F-150 Raptor R? Maybe part of it is because it is just a much larger and heavier vehicle, and you're aware of that when you're trying to drive spirited. And this thing, even though it's not lightweight, I will say it hides it way better than the F-150. You really don't realize you're in a road going truck when you're just bombing around these little trails and stuff and going, you know, coming out sideways at the end of them. That's where this really has its appeal. Now, to talk about the pros that the F-150 Raptor R in particular has off-road is the power's not necessary, but it is badass. In that one instance to where if you're straight and you just want to hammer it and just see a bunch of dust behind you, maybe do a rolling burnout or just come out of the corner super sideways, even if you didn't plan it right, and you're like, I didn't really slide that one the way I wanted to, hammer down and the thing just goes sideways and you kick up a bunch of dust. Versus in stuff like this, you kind of want to get the angle right, hammer down, and then it'll do it. And it's kind of rewarding when you do it, versus it's just cheating with that much power on the R. You just hammer down and it just does this big old slide, which is pretty awesome as well. That all being said, between the two of them, I have no problem telling you, I think I have more fun in this one. Is it because it's newer and I'm honeymoon phasing over it? I don't think so. I think something about this size of a truck, off-road, for the kind of off-roading I do, I enjoy it in a smaller package like this, personally. Talking about on-road performance though, this thing, I will say, was peppier than I initially thought it would be. Down low. Mid-range, meh, and with the R, that's the party trick. At any speeds, down low, mid-range, high, you hammer that thing down and it will pick up, and it still takes me aback. It's crazy. Now, talking about the boring kind of driving though, that's another thing that you just can't dispute. If you need certain kind of storage, if you need certain kind of towing capacity, the F-150 wins all day long. So it just comes down to what kind of off-roading will you do, what do you need out of your truck, and if you kind of just put, you know, the status symbol aside with which truck is better as far as the lineup, F-150 is always higher than the Ranger, put that aside. What can you get out of the truck? There's a lot I've been enjoying out of this Ranger that I don't enjoy with the F-150, and that is the smaller size and the tossability. Hopefully that kind of comes through with the videos I put out there, this one included. But anyway, that's a look at it. Hopefully that kind of sets expectation of what to expect out of the two trucks now that I've had them both side by side for a month now. Yeah, each one will do something that the other one doesn't in that weird sense. I think the best thing Ford can do is make a Ranger Raptor R, and chef's kiss, that would be the perfect truck. Have this truck with even more performance, have a V8 in it, maybe like a Coyote or something like that, and let it just have all the nice amenities that the F-150 does, because it's just a totally different truck entirely. And that would be my dream truck. It's probably a Ranger Raptor R if that were to ever come into fruition. But in the meantime, gotta have them both. What a sad world. Anyway, that does it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time.